Older people are just light sleepers, they say. As if waking at 3 a.m. is a minor glitch, not a whisper from something deeper. But we know better, don't we? Welcome to Buddhist Wisdom for the Elderly, where aging isn't a problem to fix, but a path to walk with grace and maybe a little humor. If you've ever found yourself wide awake in the stillness of night, not from pain or noise, but from something unspoken, this video is for you. Today we'll explore 7 reasons why older adults wake up at the same sacred hour, night after night. Some are biological, some emotional, some spiritual. But all of them, especially Part 5, hold hidden wisdom. Part 5 dives into that quiet restlessness of the heart, the part of you that still wants to be heard, even when the world is asleep. Understanding it could change the way you see every sleepless hour. So go ahead, like if you've ever had a conversation with your ceiling. Subscribe to help us reach 1,000 and keep creating videos that soothe the soul. Make some tea, get cozy, and let's begin this 3 a.m. conversation with yourself. Part 1. Sleeplessness and the search for meaning, when purpose becomes the missing pill. Or why the real reason you're awake might be because your soul has questions and no one's picking up the phone. So it's 3:45 a.m. Again, the house is still, the cat's snoring. Your spouse, if you've still got one, is curled up like a Buddha on a memory foam cloud. And you, wide awake, not restless, not really tired, just humming with something you can't quite name. You check the clock, maybe drink some water, and then it hits you. What exactly am I waking up for? Ah, yes, the existential alarm clock. No snooze button on that one. This isn't about needing to pee or that leftover slice of pie calling to you from the fridge. This is deeper. It's the part of you that used to answer to mom or coach or boss or the one who held everything together and now mostly answers to spam calls and pharmacy reminders. It's not depression. It's not insomnia. It's the soul saying, hey, now what? See, for most of your life, you were needed. Constantly. By kids, co-workers, your neighbor's car battery, the dog. Everyone had a job for you. And now, your calendar is mostly blank. Your phone rings less. You finally got the peace you always wanted, and yet it feels like something's missing. Welcome to the great spiritual paradox of retirement. You get everything you thought you needed, rest, space, quiet, and then your soul gets suspicious. Okay, it says, what do we do with all this being? Thomas, 71, used to teach high school math. The kind of guy who could explain calculus while balancing a coffee cup on a stack of ungraded quizzes. For 40 years, he was Mr. Sandler. Respected, relied on, never late. Now he's retired. And he's been waking up at 3:45 a.m. every night, staring at the ceiling like it's got the final exam answers. He told me, I'm not sleepless, I'm unused. That hit me right in the heart. He didn't miss the schedule, he missed the meaning, the feeling of being in the flow of something bigger. The quiet glow of knowing someone was better off because he showed up. So what did Thomas do? He started tutoring at the library. He joined a little online group for retired educators, and he started writing, just reflections on teaching, life, and the weird beauty of growing old. His sleep didn't change overnight, but his energy did. He said, I stopped trying to fall asleep. I started trying to wake up in a different way. In Buddhist teachings, there's this thing called right livelihood. But don't let the term fool you. It's not just about jobs or income. It's about how your life aligns with the soul. And here's the kicker. As we get older, right livelihood doesn't retire. It evolves. You don't need a job. You need a reason to put your feet on the floor in the morning. A small service, a gentle offering, a laugh shared, a kindness extended, a pie baked. Sometimes the soul doesn't need a career. It just needs to feel useful again. Even if that usefulness looks like writing letters to your younger self or telling the truth to a friend who needs to hear it. Meaning is what tucks the mind in at night, not melatonin. If you're lying awake wondering what the point of all this is, try one of these soul snacks before bed. 1. Legacy lettering. Write a note to someone you love, or someone you've lost, or to the version of you from 20 years ago. Just say what needs to be said. No edits, no postage required. 2. Morning purpose project. Give yourself a tiny job each morning. Bake something, call someone, knit something vaguely recognizable. It's not about achievement, it's about aliveness. 3. Meaning mapping. Each night, ask yourself 3 questions. What touched me today? What did I give today? What am I still curious about? This isn't homework, it's heart work. You're not broken, you're becoming. You're not lost, you're in between. This stage of life, it's not the epilogue. It's the sacred slowdown, the part of the story where the plot thins but the soul thickens. So when you wake up at 3:45 a.m., don't panic. Don't reach for a pill. Reach inward. Say to yourself, I am still here, and there's still something I'm here for. Because there is. Even now. Especially now. Part 2. Melatonin, moonlight, and the mystery of aging sleep. The gentle thief of the night, or why you might be wide awake at 3:17 a.m., talking to God or the ceiling fan. Let's be honest, some things in life make a lot of noise. Birthdays with confetti, grandchildren doing laps through your hallway, and retirement parties where everyone awkwardly claps and hands you a clock, like you didn't already have enough reminders of time slipping away. But other things sneak in like a cat at midnight. Real quiet like. One of those things is melatonin loss. I know, sexy topic. You don't see it coming. It's not like you wake up one day and someone says, congratulations, you're now making 40% less of the hormone that helps you sleep. No, you just find yourself lying in bed at 3:17 a.m., blinking at the ceiling like it's got the answers. And maybe it does. You're not anxious, you're not in pain, you're just awake, a little confused, a little annoyed, wondering if this is your new spiritual path. And maybe it is. Okay, science time, but don't worry, we'll keep our robes on. Melatonin is that delightful little hormone that used to flow through your system like a warm bath at bedtime. Back in your 30s or 40s, it showed up on time. Said, hey pal, let's get you horizontal. And boom, 8 hours of solid sleep, no questions asked. Now, not so much. As you age, your pineal gland, this adorable pinecone-shaped structure in the middle of your brain, starts phoning it in. Melatonin production slows down. Your brain doesn't get the memo that it's still nighttime, so you wake up for no reason, or so it seems. The truth is, your body is still working just fine. It's just doing it on a different schedule now, like the mailman who now delivers your letters at 5 a.m. instead of noon. Same message, different timing. Here's where it gets cosmic. In Buddhist monasteries across the world, monks intentionally wake up around 3 or 4 a.m. It's their prime time. They light incense, they sit in stillness, they watch their breath, and maybe they giggle at how hard we Westerners try to sleep through it. They call it Brahma Muhurta, which roughly translates to God's hour. Not the angry thunderbolt God, but the quiet one. The one that whispers, hey, wanna talk? What if your 3 a.m. wake-up wasn't a problem, but an invitation? Maybe you don't need to wrestle your mind back into slumber. Maybe you need to sit up, breathe, and say, all right, I'm here. What now? Let me tell you about Alma. Alma is 76, recently widowed, and for the last 6 months she's been waking up every night at, you guessed it, 3 a.m. sharp. At first, she thought it was grief. Then she thought it was the ghost of her husband. Then she thought maybe it was just the lasagna she had for dinner. But eventually, she gave up trying to solve it. Her granddaughter gave her a beeswax candle and said, maybe your heart just wants someone to sit with. So she did. Each night when she woke, Alma would light that candle, sit in her old recliner, and breathe. No agenda, no fix-it plan, just being. And something beautiful happened. Her sleep didn't exactly return on command, but her peace did. I stopped fighting the wakefulness, she said. Now I treat it like a conversation. And some nights, God actually shows up. Other nights, it's just me and the dog snoring. Both, she said, are good company. Look, as spiritual as this all sounds, you still have a nervous system, and it still responds to light, sound, and temperature like a cranky toddler. So try this. Make the room really dark, not mostly dark. That street light coming through your blinds? Melatonin's mortal enemy. No screens before bed. Yes, even your phone with the inspirational quote apps. Go for a short walk under moonlight after dinner. Pretend you're a wise old wizard or a monk in training. It helps. When you wake up, don't panic. Don't force sleep. Try some soft music, or say a mantra, or just be. One woman, let's call her Joan, once told me, "I used to think 3 a.m. was when life forgot about me. Now I think it's when life says, hey, let's talk without all the noise." There's wisdom in these hours. Maybe melatonin is fading, but awareness is rising. Maybe your body's not broken, it's just calling you into a different kind of presence. The kind where sleep is less about unconsciousness and more about communion. So the next time you wake up before dawn, don't clench your fists or yell at the ceiling fan. Smile. Say, okay, old friend, I'm listening, and maybe light a candle, just in case. Part 3, the body speaks softly at night. Physical discomfort and health-related wake-ups, or why your left knee might be trying to teach you impermanence at 3 a.m. So here you are again. It's 3 in the morning. The room is still. The cat is asleep. The street outside looks like a scene from a quiet meditation retreat. And yet, you're wide awake. Not because of some dramatic nightmare. No earthquakes, no ghostly visitors. Just your body tapping you on the shoulder like a polite monk. It's time, it whispers. Time for what exactly? To stretch your hip? To visit the bathroom? To remember that thing you forgot to do in 1973? Welcome to the club. The 3 a.m. Spiritual Check-in Society. Membership automatic if you've been alive more than 65 years, and your knees have decided to hold a grudge. Now let's be honest, this isn't about pain in the big scary call an ambulance sense. No, this is that gentle but insistent ache that shows up when everything else is finally quiet. It's like your shoulder has been patiently waiting all day for the perfect time to say, "Excuse me, I exist." And this is where it gets funny. You spend decades ignoring your body, rushing from one thing to another, tossing it into beds, cars, and chairs like luggage. And now, in the middle of the night, it's asking for a little conversation. That's not pain, that's karma. Hank is 81, used to be a mechanic, back when carburetors were still a thing. Sturdy guy, kind eyes, stubborn like an old oak tree. But recently his left knee has become the most vocal member of his household. Every night like clockwork around 3:30 a.m. it sends out a distress signal. Twang, throb, ache. At first, Hank fought it. Ice packs, Tylenol, grumbling under his breath. But one night, fed up and half awake, he sat up in bed, stared down at his kneecap and said, "All right, what do you want?" And he swore the pain got quieter, not gone, just softened. As if it had been waiting for acknowledgement, which, by the way, is something most of us want too. He started adjusting how he slept. More pillows, fewer expectations. Did a little stretching before bed, used a heating pad with lavender oil and pretended he was at a spa, not in his guest room. And wouldn't you know it? He started sleeping better. Not because he cured the pain, but because he befriended it. Now let's talk about nocturia. That's the fancy medical term for the thing that makes you shuffle to the bathroom like a half-awake monk at 3 a.m. The bladder is a tricky little teacher. It used to be reliable. Now it's more like a toddler, full of surprise and not always great at timing. And listen, I know, you used to sleep 8 hours straight. Now it's more like 2 hours, then a bathroom break, then another 2, and maybe a conversation with the ceiling about your grocery list. That doesn't mean you're broken. It just means your internal plumbing system is running its own retreat schedule. You're adapting. Congratulations, you're enlightened, but with orthopedic slippers. Let me introduce you to Elena. She's 76, a widow, a sharp dresser, and an even sharper thinker. But her sleep had become a game of musical chairs. Down at 10, up at 3:30 like clockwork. She assumed it was emotional, grief, memories, too much thinking. And yes, all of that was there. But it turned out the real culprit? Her blood pressure medication. Her doctor adjusted the timing from evening to morning, and poof, her 3 a.m. party invitations stopped arriving. She told me, turns out it wasn't my soul reaching out. It was my kidneys. Now that's spiritual humility. The Buddha said that the body is not the obstacle to awakening. It's the path. So when your hip sings or your back buzzes or your bladder begs for attention, don't clench, don't curse, don't go to war. Try saying, "Hello, teacher. What would you like me to notice?" At 3 a.m., this can feel like nonsense, but if you try it even once, you'll notice something. The body stops screaming when it feels heard. You don't need to fix it. Just be with it. Breathe. Rub that spot. Adjust the pillow. Smile at the absurdity. And return to bed like a monk with a sense of humor. You've been walking around in this miraculous, leaky, achy, beautiful body for decades. It has loved, danced, grieved, kneeled, labored, and carried more than anyone will ever know. So when it wakes you up at 3 a.m., maybe, just maybe, it's not malfunctioning. Maybe it's whispering, "Thank you for still being here. Let's sit together a while." So you sit, you listen, and when the time feels right, you sleep again, or not. But either way, you're in the company of your oldest companion, your breath, your bones, and your becoming. Part 4. When the soul stirs, emotional and psychological restlessness at 3 a.m. Or why you're wide awake at 3:12 a.m. Having a conversation with your entire life. You're not in pain, you're not cold, you're not even particularly awake, and yet, here you are, 3:12 a.m. again. You lie there, eyes open, staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft whir of the fan and the even softer murmur of your soul whispering, "Hey, remember that thing you said in 1968? Let's unpack that." This, my friend, is what we call a spiritual check-in disguised as insomnia. And you're not alone. This isn't the kind of wake-up that requires a bathroom trip or a heating pad. No, this one's sneakier. It's not the body calling, it's the heart. And it doesn't come with flashing lights or sirens. It just slips in, like a memory you didn't know was still living in the basement. A face, a name, a small ache that's hard to describe. Sometimes a memory so sharp it feels like it happened last night, not last century. This isn't a malfunction. It's just your soul tapping you on the shoulder saying, "Hey, got a minute?" See, the thing about 3 a.m. is that the thinking part of your brain, the one that handles grocery lists and whether you remembered to lock the door, is mostly offline. What's online is the emotional part. The hippocampus, the amygdala, and that quiet little closet where you store all your almost crieds. At this hour, your mind doesn't want to check email. It wants to remember your high school prom, that time your daughter said something beautiful at dinner, or the strange, bittersweet look your spouse gave you on a Tuesday in 1994. And if you're lucky or cursed, it might offer a highlight reel of every awkward thing you've ever said. Because why not? It's 3 a.m. and there's no one else to entertain you. Lorraine is 81. Lost her husband 5 years ago. A strong woman, full of sass, with a kitchen that always smells like cinnamon and quiet courage. By day, she's great, keeps busy, knits for the hospice center, writes cards to people who are lonelier than she is. But at night, she wakes up like clockwork. 3 a.m., eyes open, heart humming. "It's not that I miss him," she said to me once. "It's that I still talk to him. And apparently 3 a.m. is when he answers." She started keeping a notebook by the bed. Every time she woke, she wrote him a little note. Not dramatic, not desperate, just things like, "The daffodils came up today. You would have liked them." And somehow, it helped. Her wake-ups became less like intrusions and more like reunions. Not insomnia, just intimacy, arriving on its own time. Now, in Buddhist tradition, this hour is actually considered sacred. They call it the hour of the naked mind. Not because anyone's running around unclothed, though. Hey, you do you. It's naked in the sense that the ego has gone to bed, and what's left is just you. The real you. Not the role, not the routine, just raw being. Monks wake up at this hour on purpose. They light incense, meditate, and sit with their thoughts without judgment, not to fix them, just to see them clearly. So maybe when you wake at 3 a.m., it's not your brokenness that woke you up. It's your truth, knocking gently, saying, "It's quiet now. Can we talk?" A few sacred and slightly silly 3 a.m. practices. The 3 a.m. notebook ritual. Keep a pen and paper nearby. Jot down whatever your heart says. I miss you. I forgive you. Or even, I don't know what this is, but I'm here. The breath hug. One hand on your chest, one on your belly. Breathe slow. With each exhale, say silently, "I'm okay. I'm listening." Spiritual audiobooks or nature sounds. Let Ram Dass Pema Chodron or the sound of Tibetan rain distract you from your own reruns. Permission slip meditation. Whisper to yourself, "I don't have to solve this now. I'll meet it again in the light." And then, Reinfer. Listen, 3 a.m. wake-ups aren't a sign that something's wrong. They're often a sign that something inside you is ready to be seen, held, honored. You're not a malfunctioning sleep machine. You're a fully human soul, tending the soft embers of a lifetime, of love, of grief, of memory, of change. So the next time you find yourself awake before dawn, try this. Don't reach for the clock. Reach inward and whisper, "I'm still here, and I'm still unfolding." Because you are, and you're doing it beautifully, even at 3 a.m. Part 5. When your body decides it's morning, even if it's still dark outside, or why your inner clock thinks you're a monk now. So, it's 3 a.m. again. You wake up, no pain, no panic, just wide-eyed and weirdly awake. You stare at the ceiling fan, hoping it spins you back to sleep. It doesn't. Instead, it just wobbles like a confused Buddha. And somewhere in your mind, the question returns, whispered but annoyed, "Why am I awake right now?" Well, let me offer you a radical possibility. Maybe you're not broken. Maybe you're just done sleeping. Yep, I said it. You see, as we age, our body's internal timekeeper, the circadian rhythm, decides to go rogue. It starts shifting earlier. You used to stay up for Johnny Carson, remember? Now you're nodding off before the second weather report. Your body's like, "Look, we had dinner at 5. We're done by 9. Let's wrap this up." And if you're asleep by 9 p.m. and your body clocks 6 good hours, congratulations, your internal grandpa alarm goes off at 3 a.m. sharp. Like a rooster, but with less enthusiasm. This isn't a malfunction. It's biology. It's also strangely spiritual. Now, here's where it gets interesting. In Buddhist monasteries across Thailand, Nepal, and the Upper West Side, monks choose to wake up at 3 or 4 a.m. They do it on purpose. I know, sounds suspicious, but hear me out. They rise, light incense, and sit in stillness. Why? Because that's the sacred time. In Sanskrit, it's called Brahma Muhurta, the hour of the gods. The air is quieter, the mind is softer, the veils between the worlds are thinner, or at least that's what the monks say. But maybe your body knows this too. Maybe you're not insomniac. Maybe you're spiritually punctual. Let me tell you about Irene. She's 69, retired, and once worked as a nurse, one of those strong, practical types who never cried in public and knew where the good chocolate was hidden. After she lost her husband Gerald, she started waking up every night around 3 a.m. At first she thought it was grief, then hormones, then ghosts. She tried herbal teas, eye masks, deep breathing apps, and whispering sweet threats to her alarm clock. Nothing worked. Then one morning, bleary-eyed and a little broken, she sat in her kitchen with a cup of chamomile and remembered something a Buddhist nun once told her during a hospital shift. Sometimes the soul wakes before the body is ready. So that morning, instead of fighting the clock, she lit a candle, sat in her old rocking chair, and just breathed. She didn't solve anything, but she also didn't suffer. She didn't push sleep away or beg for it to return. She just sat in that quiet hour like it was a friend who showed up unexpectedly. Now she calls it her holy hour. Says it's when she talks to God, writes to her late husband, and sometimes just watches the shadows move across the wall like ancient dancers. She still wakes up early, but now, it's not a curse. It's an appointment. This whole advanced sleep phase thing, it's normal. Totally, wonderfully, frustratingly normal. Your body isn't betraying you. It's just changing the schedule, like switching from a night shift to a dawn prayer meeting. So maybe stop asking, why am I awake, and try asking, what wants to be seen in this quiet? Instead of wrestling the pillow into submission, make a little ritual. Leave a warm blanket by your favorite chair. Keep a notebook nearby. Write a love letter to the version of you that's still wide-eyed at 3:07. Sip tea like a monk with a secret. Light a candle. Watch the flame. Pretend you're in a monastery and that waking up early was your idea all along. Let go of the idea that sleep means 11 to 7. That schedule was probably invented by coffee companies and mattress commercials. Ask yourself instead, what rhythm fits me now? Because here's the cosmic joke. Once you stop fighting your body's rhythm, it usually softens. You sleep better, not by force, but by friendship. So the next time you wake up before the sun, don't panic, smile. Say, it's you again, 3 a.m., nice to see you. And remember, you're not waking up too early. You're just a little ahead of schedule. Of course. Here's the part 3 refull Ram Dass mode, his trademark blend of spiritual insight, gentle self-deprecating humor, compassion, and that warm feeling like your soul just got a hug with a wink. Part 6. Stillness as the stranger. How cultural silence around aging fuels 3 a.m. restlessness. Or why doing nothing feels weirdly illegal after a lifetime of doing everything. So, there you are again. It's 3 a.m. You followed the sacred rituals, early dinner, herbal tea, no screens after sunset, soft socks, 2 pages of a spiritual book you can't remember reading. And still, you're awake. The room is still. The fridge hums like a sleepy mantra. You've fluffed the pillows 6 times. But there it is, that feeling. Not pain, not panic, just stillness. And if we're honest, it feels kind of creepy. You might even whisper to yourself, what is this? Why does doing nothing feel like doing something wrong? Well, welcome to the weird and wonderful world of stillness, modern culture's most underrated spiritual teacher. You see, we come from a culture that puts busy on a pedestal. We were trained, without anyone saying it out loud, that our worth was measured by how many things we got done before lunch. That how are you was best answered with busy, you know. And then we retired. And now the to-do list fits on a post-it note, and nobody's calling for casseroles or carpools. And suddenly we're sitting in a room full of silence, and the silence starts to feel like it's judging us. But here's the cosmic joke. That silence? It's not judging you. It's inviting you. Let me tell you about Eleanor. Eleanor is 78 and spent most of her life as a nurse, a mother of 4, and the unofficial event planner of her church potluck circuit. She knew how to multitask a fever, a pie crust, and a toddler meltdown without spilling her tea. But when all of that slowed down, when the house got quiet and nobody needed a thermometer or a casserole, Eleanor started waking up at 3 a.m. Not because of her joints, not because of worry. She said, it's like the quiet itself was waking me up. Turns out, Eleanor had spent her whole life outrunning stillness. She'd learned, like many of us, that silence was suspicious. Stillness meant something must be wrong. So she started slow, 10 minutes each night. No TV, no list, no goal, just a candle and a chair and a commitment to not fix anything. At first, it felt like eternity with a side of awkward, but slowly, something softened. The silence became a companion instead of a stranger. And her sleep? It came back, not with fanfare, but like an old friend who stopped needing a reason to visit. In Zen, there's a saying, empty your cup, not because empty is bad, but because emptiness is ready. We're not talking about brokenness, we're talking about spaciousness, the kind of quiet that monks train for. The kind that doesn't shout, doesn't push, it just is. Stillness isn't stagnation. It's the moment you stop running from yourself and realize, oh, this is where I was going all along. If stillness feels like a surprise party you didn't want, try these. 1. Guided silence. Play a 5-minute audio before bed. Something gentle, something that says you don't have to do anything. 2. Candle companionship. Light a candle. Just sit. No expectations. Let the flame do all the work. 3. Permission note. Write this and keep it on your nightstand. I'm allowed to rest. I'm not behind. I'm just here. 4. Morning mantra. If you wake up early, don't ask, why me? Ask, okay, stillness. What's the message? You might get an answer. You might get silence. Both are valuable. You are not a productivity machine that ran out of batteries. You are a soul who's been offered space. And yes, space can be awkward, like the moment after someone asks, so what do you do now? But stillness isn't the absence of meaning. It's the place where deeper meaning starts to whisper. So if you're up at 3 a.m., staring into the dark with nothing to do, congratulations, you've entered the monastery of your own being. And guess what? You don't have to chant or shave your head. You just have to be. And being, especially at this stage of life, is more than enough. In fact, it might be the whole point. Part 7. How the quiet life changes your sleep. Lifestyle habits and the 3 a.m. wake-up call. Or how your recliner might secretly be the reason you're awake before the birds. You know how it goes. Dinner at 5:30. A little TV by 7. Maybe you nod off during the weather forecast. You shuffle off to bed before 9, proud of your discipline. You've done it right. Then, 3 a.m., boom. Eyes wide open. No dream, no storm, just you. Awake. Again. And not just once. It keeps happening. You're not anxious. You're not even uncomfortable. You're just up. Now, I know the temptation. We blame the bladder, the full moon, maybe even the dog. But here's a quieter truth. One you might not hear from your doctor or your neighbor. You're waking up at 3 a.m. because your days have become too still, too soon. It's not insomnia. It's not punishment. It's rhythm. And rhythm, dear friend, is no small thing. When you were working, your life had a certain choreography. The alarm clock snapped its fingers at 6:30. You had somewhere to go. You had a rhythm, maybe not always pleasant but reliable. Now, the days flow like a lazy river. No meetings, no rush. You wake when your body says so. You read, maybe take a stroll, have lunch, water the plants, call a friend. It's peaceful until it starts nudging your sleep schedule forward like a mischievous monk ringing the bell a little too early. What was once the joy of slowing down has become a kind of quiet momentum toward earlier dinners, earlier yawns, and earlier wake-ups. It's not wrong, it just is. Let me tell you about Walter. He's 74, a retired engineer, spent his life solving problems, building systems, managing teams. Now, he reads a lot, prunes his bonsai tree, and says things like, I guess it's bedtime at 8:15. He'd wake up at 3 a.m., not in distress, just ready. Problem was, the rest of the world wasn't. He tried melatonin, tried breathing techniques, even tried eating a turkey sandwich at 3:10, hoping tryptophan would do its thing. Nothing worked. Then a sleep counselor asked him one question that changed everything. Are you giving your body enough reasons to stay asleep? That hit Walter like a cone from a Zen master. He realized his days were peaceful, but empty. No stimulation, no challenge, no variety. So his body decided to shift the party earlier. Why stay asleep until 6 when you haven't done anything? So Walter made small changes. He took a walk at 4 p.m., called his niece after dinner, lit candles instead of just turning off the lights, and he stayed awake, with presence, until 9:30. Within 2 weeks, his body adjusted. He still woke up early, but 5 felt like a victory. And more importantly, he felt aligned. In Buddhist monasteries, there's a rhythm to the day. But it's not about control, it's about presence. Whether you're sweeping the floor or sipping tea, you're doing it fully. That's the key. You don't need more to do, you need more to attend to. The Buddha didn't say fill your day with noise. He said be here now. That means giving your body meaningful cues. Morning light, evening reflection, mid-afternoon movement. These are not chores. These are sacred nudges. They remind your body when to wake and when to rest. Teresa is 77. She was a night owl most of her life. Worked in theater, lived for late-night rehearsals and wine with friends. But now she found herself falling asleep mid-episode and waking at 3:30, feeling lost. She tried to push through, drank more caffeine, kept the TV on late, but it only made her more exhausted. So she stopped fighting and started curating. At 7:30, she turned off the screens, lit a candle, wrote in her journal just a memory or a dream. Then she read Rumi or the Dhammapada until her eyes softened. She still woke early but not startled. She called it her twilight hour, a time of deep gentleness. Sometimes she meditated, sometimes she just sat with the stars. She told me, I stopped trying to extend the day. I started completing it. Instead of asking, why can't I sleep? Ask yourself, am I living in a way that leads naturally to rest? Rest isn't the end of effort, it's the fruit of intentional living. If your day is too quiet, your night becomes too long. If your evenings end too soon, your mornings begin too early. And the solution isn't always more doing, it's deeper rhythm. Add a walk or light movement in the late afternoon. Delay dinner by 30 to 60 minutes. Create a little twilight ritual, light, music, journaling. Avoid those unconscious chair naps, your body notices. Expose yourself to bright morning light. Even cloudy skies will do. You are not malfunctioning. You are not alone. You are simply adjusting to a new rhythm. So light the candle. Call your body back into the day. And when night comes, let it know you've lived enough to sleep well. Because this tender, imperfect rhythm is still your life. And it's beautiful. Conclusion. So maybe waking up at 3 a.m. isn't a glitch. Maybe it's not your bladder, or your body, or even the neighbor's porch light. Maybe, just maybe, it's life offering you a moment of quiet truth. A chance to listen to yourself. We've explored the natural changes in your rhythm, the quiet aches in your joints, the slow shifts in identity and purpose, and the emotional weight we sometimes carry into the night. And in part 5, we touched on something deeper, the soul's gentle unrest. That longing to still be seen, still be useful, still be alive, in a world that too often forgets the elderly still have fire in them. If any of that spoke to you, if you felt even a small yes in your chest, then this video did its job. So let's keep this conversation going. Leave a comment below. What wakes you at 3 a.m.? Or better yet, what helps you feel at peace in those quiet hours? Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear tonight. And if this brought you comfort, insight, or just a smile, like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Help us reach 1,000 subscribers. So we can keep making these little late-night lanterns for people just like you. You've stayed with us this far. Thank you. Now, take a deep breath. Wrap yourself in the soft knowing that even your sleeplessness holds wisdom. And remember, you're not alone. We'll see you next time in the quiet between the hours.